This podcast is part of the C-Suite Radio Network, turning the volume up on business.
Welcome to the Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer. Join us as Deb talks with her guests, experts in their fields, as they share real-life stories and techniques to power up your business.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to have so much fun because we're going to be talking about starting your own business, and we've done that before several times, maybe even many times. But each person that I talk to has unique experiences and unique ways to start a business and walk us through this process. And I tell you what, I started my business over 20 years ago. Every single time I talk to somebody who tells us how to start a business, I'm like, I should have done that. And luckily, sometimes you can still go back and do those things. But please join me in welcoming Danielle Roberts to our program today. Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. I'm so excited to be here with you, Deb.
We're going to have so much fun. And so let me tell people just a little bit about you to start with. So Danielle Roberts is a Forbes Finance Council member and co-founder of Boomer Benefits, a licensed insurance agency that helps baby boomers navigate Medicare in 47 states. She and her brother have grown their agency from a tiny two-person company to an award-winning national top producer with a nearly 8-figure annual review and over 170,000 social media followers. Danielle is a past president of the Fort Worth chapter of the National Association of Health Underwriters and served 2 years on the state board as their magazine editor. These days, she enjoys writing articles about Medicare, retirement, and personal finance for Forbes.com and many other publications. So again, Danielle, welcome.
I'm so glad. Thank you.
Well, we're going to talk about Boomer, about Boomer Benefits because, we'll get there at some point. But we really want to talk to you about starting a business. And I'll be honest, I look at you and I think, oh my gosh, you're just a youngster. I always go to somebody's LinkedIn profile, right, to try and figure out what their age is. But, and so I find it fascinating that the industry that you have gone into. And so we'll talk about that. But why is it that you decided that having this business was your passion? How did you get into this?
So I worked for years in the staffing industry,
Okay.
A great business here in Dallas-Fort Worth area, learned a lot from the entrepreneur that owned that business. But probably about 10 years into it, I was a little burnt out. When you're doing staffing, your product is human, and
Right.
humans are very unreliable. And so there was all sorts of stress with booking people into jobs, and they would no-show, and then your client's upset. And, I was always an entrepreneurial kid. My brother and I had all sorts of schemes when we were younger to earn money legitimately from neighborhood car washing and lawn mowing and all sorts of things. So I always had kind of in the back of my mind to own a business, and I wanted to do some sort of sales, but I didn't really know what. And I ended up looking for probably well over a year, and then a girlfriend of mine had an interview for an insurance position in health insurance, and it was sort of a group interview, so she invited me along, and I went to that meeting and right away thought, this is the thing I'm looking for because I'm going to sell something that is a non-perishable product. There's no inventory. It's something that you can start part-time.
Everybody always needs it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I got into it originally doing group health insurance and started the old bootstrap way where I would go around to local business parks and come in the front door and hand out my business card and say, when your group health insurance comes around, we'd love to be able to quote this for you. So that's how I originally got involved in the insurance, but the Medicare angle kind of came about by accident. And what was happening when I was helping people with their group health insurance is a lot of times these small companies, 5 to 10 people, small business owners in their 40s, we would get done helping them with their health insurance, and at some point they would say, hey, I'm helping my mom, she's turning 65, and this Medicare is a lot more confusing than this product that I'm on. And do you know anything about this? Can you help us? And we didn't know anything about Medicare at that point. So I thought, well, after the fifth or sixth person had asked us
Mhm.
about it, I thought we better go look into this. And what we found is that Medicare is a great big beast. It's a huge
Mhm.
national health insurance program that all your life, after you've had employers picking out your health insurance for you, you're just dumped into,
Mhm.
and suddenly you have to figure all this out yourself. And it's got 4 parts and 10 supplements and dozens of drug plans in every state, and extremely confusing and overwhelming for a lot of people who've never had to make these kind of plan selections before.
Well, and for
So
people who are, shall we say, mature.
yes, exactly. And you would think that it wouldn't be so hard to pick out something like health insurance,
Mhm.
but all the terminology is things that they've
Right.
never had to deal with before.
Mhm.
So we educated ourselves and learned how to do that. And over time, it just became the primary player in our business
Mhm.
because there's 10,000 people a day aging into Medicare, and the demand for information and help with picking
Mhm.
supplement products is great.
Mhm.
And so that's how we ended up where we are now, servicing Medicare supplement products in 47 states.
Right. And we talk a lot about finding your niche, and that you need to keep drilling down and drilling down and drilling down. My favorite is when you ask, say, a skincare person, who's your target market? And they say everyone, because everyone has skin, right? And it's like, because all of a sudden we can't think of anybody who might need their product or their service.
Yeah,
But when they get it down to they want to work with teenagers who have acne, we're like, oh my gosh, okay, we all know somebody that we can refer them to. And so the same thing goes with insurance. I mean, you can sell insurance and,
mhm,
it can be this huge thing, or
yes,
you can get it down to something where, as you said, people kept asking you for it. And so then that light bulb goes on. You're like, well, hey, there might really be something here. But have you niched even further in that, or is it, do you just, because you do represent people in 47 different states, but
yeah.
is there any specific type of people that you work with more than others?
Definitely. So we can help anyone on Medicare, and we
Mm-hmm.
have clients from age 65 up till 100. We've
Mm-hmm.
got several clients in their 90s and even 100.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly we work with people right as they're aging into Medicare.
Okay.
So we sort of took an approach of education.
Okay.
And when we were doing this in the beginning, a lot of the old timers in the industry would say, well, seniors don't use the internet. They're not going to buy from you over
Right.
the phone. They're
They
not
don't
going to
have
go
them their
online.
computers.
Yeah, they've never seen a computer in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And we just thought that was ludicrous.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about my own parents who were
Mm-hmm.
baby boomers, and they've been working on computers for
Right.
years.
Mm-hmm.
So we built a website, and we just kind of attacked
Mm-hmm.
it from an angle of education.
Mm-hmm.
So probably the larger share of our clients are folks that they're in 63, 64,
Mm-hmm.
and they're starting to look into that turning 65
Mm-hmm.
Medicare. And we provide tons of education really about their basic benefits from the government. And we
Mm-hmm.
help them understand what they're getting from the U.S. federal government before we even get into any of the ancillary
Mm-hmm.
supplemental products
Right.
that we sell.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of that front end of the market is definitely our most drilled
Mm-hmm.
down niche, where we target most of our clients in that age group. But the great thing about doing that, of course, is then that once they get used to your service and being able to get the answers that they need from you,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to stay with you
Right.
hopefully for the rest of their lives with
Mm-hmm.
their products. And so that ends up with a nice age range there of people that do
Right.
business with us.
Well, and of course, this is a product, we mentioned everybody needs, or has, gets, whatever we want to call it. But it is also an ever-changing product.
Yes.
And there's no way that somebody can stay up on the rules. And so that's where it's handy to be able to go to you and say, okay, part B, plan B, what the heck? And then you get it figured out, and next year you need a D, an E, and an F, or,
Yes.
but, and I think that's where a lot of business owners think, well, we're going to serve, this client, this customer, and as a one-time thing. And I love that you're building relationships with people that last for years,
Yeah.
because of course we all know that the easiest customers and clients to have are those that you already have. When you have to keep starting over all the time,
Mhm.
that's just, that's not obviously a productive way to be working.
Of course. And the persistency, just like you say, it's so much easier to keep an existing client
Mm-hmm.
than to have to go out and find a new one. So if you just dedicate a little bit of your time and energy into servicing the clients that you have and providing them with something that's memorable, you'd be surprised you'll find that these people stay with you long term.
Right.
And that circles back to one of the original reasons why I liked this to start a business in, is when you're selling insurance products, and especially if it's a monthly product where they're paying a premium once a month, every time that client is paying a premium, you're earning a commission.
Right.
And so the longer you keep that client on the books, the bigger the lifetime value of that client is for you. And you can also sell them other related products like dental, vision,
life
and hearing,
insurance, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, it makes sense to spend some time like we have in developing a service team that can help the existing clients with all their questions, needs, and concerns, because those are the people that are keeping those clients on the book for you. And then the carriers who we're contracting with appreciate that persistency as well. So it sort of helps you in a couple different ways.
Right. Well, one of the things that strikes me is, as we said, you've got these long-term clients, you're with them forever. And, I love that method, because we get this client, we're gone, get this client and gone. And some, obviously it depends on what our product or service is, but to be able to establish that relationship. But more importantly, this is a demographic that now, I purely anecdotal here, so I could be wrong on this, women who are going to talk to each other.
Yes.
And so they're going to say, hey, Betty, you really need to talk to my friend Danielle. She got us on the right thing. And so for you, word of mouth marketing is incredible.
Of course. And, you're right. Insurance products, by and large these days, are handled by the female in the relationship. So I think that's something that's really changed over the last couple of decades, is these types of financial purchases a lot of times are handled by women, and they are going to talk to their friends and family about a good experience that they've had. So if you can kind of dial into that and make sure that you provide them an experience that's memorable, not only does it help them, but it also sort of helps you. I think as a business owner, you always want to offer a product that's doing something good in the world.
Right.
You want to go to sleep at night and feel good about what you've done for people that day. And so it kind of can help you in both angles. You're gonna have easy marketing because you have some word of mouth referrals going on there. And then at the same time, you go to sleep at night and you retain really good employees for years and years because you're doing something good in the community. And this is something that a lot of our also our millennial workers really care about. They care about accepting jobs where they feel like they're making a difference. So in any type of business, there's going to be some sort of client support. And if you develop that and make it into something where your employees can feel like they're doing something good in the world every day, it helps you on your recruiting as well.
Right. Well, and, we mentioned word of mouth. This is also, the opposite is true. If you don't help them, they're going to tell their friends, and again, it's purely anecdotal, but to me, it seems like this really is the word of mouth generation, because they spend more time together, maybe it's, a church group, knitting group, and, obviously I'm generalizing and stereotyping here, but, they do talk to each other more, and they have a lot of things that happen to them. In many cases, they become widows, and so, they're turning to their other friends who can help them with these decisions and with these situations. And especially if, they were that demographic, where the male in the household made some of those decisions. I remember when my father-in-law passed away. Now it's been, 10 or so years ago. My mother-in-law had no idea where a lot of things were, all of the utilities were in his name, all of these, because it was a very traditional household. And so to get her to transition into being, on her own was very difficult. And, obviously she did, but it really is one of those things where you might be dealing with people who've never had to deal with this. And so when you have an organization that has employees that you really trust to be able to help these people, that's got to be wonderful.
Yeah, I really find that that the staff themselves love the aspect of helping the folks. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have your little 90-year-olds and some of them are widows,
Right.
and we even have a few that don't have any adult children.
Mhm.
So for them to have a resource when they get a
Right.
bill in the mail
Mhm.
that they don't understand, or
Mhm.
their doctor miscoded something and
Mhm.
Medicare denied their bill, or
Right.
they're standing at the
Mhm.
pharmacy counter on a Friday being told that the insurance company's not going to cover their
Mhm.
medication, that they're not alone in that they
Mhm.
have someone that they can reach out to and get those questions answered. And so it's been so important to us to build something that is a resource like that.
Mhm.
And if you think about a time in your life when you've had something that you've had to dive into that confused you.
Mhm.
Just imagine being 65 or 64 and every single day you open your mailbox and it's just stuffed to the brim with
Right.
insurance
Because
solicitations,
everybody
right?
knows you hit that magic date,
Oh,
right?
the mail houses, they send out those names and addresses, and every insurance company under the sun will send you 13 mailers before your
Mhm.
65th birthday just trying to get their name in front of you.
Right.
And that's confusing and
Mhm.
overwhelming. And then you add to that the fact that they're being telemarketed and their
Mhm.
phone rings off the wall and every other caller is
Mhm.
trying to target them for their Medicare decisions. And so when someone comes along then and makes that easy and
Mhm.
puts the terminology into simple, plain
Right.
language and helps you through it so that you can take 98% of that mail and throw it in the trash and you can
Mhm.
stop answering your telemarketing calls, they are grateful and they do talk about it and they tell
Mhm.
their girlfriends and say, hey, remember we were talking about Medicare and how confusing it is? Well, I found this company and you should give them a call. And so, in any industry, that word of mouth and having a good reputation for helping your
Mhm.
clients, not just at the time of sale, but later on and ongoing, is so important to growing a long-term, sustainable, good business.
Right. And you have been in business now. How long, when did you start your business?
So we're coming up on 14 years.
Holy cow.
We developed the agency in May of 2005, which
Mhm.
is before Medicare even had Part D drug
Right.
coverage.
Mhm.
So it was quite a ways back there, and
Mhm.
everything since then has changed because it
Mhm.
used to be that you would drive out to someone's house and sit down across the kitchen
Right.
table, and
Mhm.
you would open up a rate book and look them up and quote them that way. And now
Mhm.
everything, of course, is completely different, and it's all
Mhm.
digital. And so we've kind of learned as we've gone along with it. But it's revolutionized the industry as well because
Mhm.
we can meet with more people and provide education to a
Right.
greater number of
Mhm.
people in a greater number of places because we can educate them online
Mhm.
now.
Right. Well, and they are, in most cases, a very tech savvy group.
Yes.
I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who is just turning 65, and she was bemoaning the fact that she was having to figure all of this out. She's a website developer, so she
Oh,
clearly, and so she's having virtual meetings, like you
yes.
and I are doing. She doesn't go to anybody's office. There's
No.
no way does she have that. She doesn't have that much time. She's busy. But yeah, so it's for business owners, it is one of those things you need to be thinking about. How can you reach your customers?
Mhm.
Do they need face to face? And some people do. I mean,
Some
that's
do.
just, and,
Yep.
and so you can't discount that unless you don't want to do face to face. I mean,
Mhm.
there are people, nope, okay, then that helps you to niche down too.
Yes, it sure
But
does.
yeah, but yeah, you are able to utilize the technology in such a cool way.
Mhm. It is. And I think, as we talked about amongst ourselves, and in the beginning, this was just my
Hmm.
brother and I
Hmm.
for 5 years before we ever hired the first employee,
Hmm.
but it was learning where their pain points
Hmm.
were and then deciding how we could solve those pain points and then how do you scale that.
Hmm.
So when you're sitting down with someone one-on-one, you're going to solve that for one person.
Hmm.
You can do a seminar and have a bunch of people come
Hmm.
and you can maybe solve that for a group of people. And then as you grow and expand digitally, now, we do webinars and
Right.
hundreds of people
Hmm.
attend them at a time and get the education that they need. And I also think something else that we've done that has been helpful is we open the information to everyone. So
Hmm.
even if someone is retiring and they have TRICARE, they're
Hmm.
never going to need to buy a supplement from us.
Hmm.
We welcome them anyway to
Right.
our webinars and our
Hmm.
education portals because we know that if they have a good experience, they're likely to tell their friends.
Hmm.
And so you have to think about all the different ways that you can reach people. And then sometimes it really does take deciding which route you're going to go because
Hmm.
I also know a number of agents who are very successful and they still run appointments. So
Right.
they're driving
Hmm.
out to zip codes and they're
Hmm.
knocking on doors
Yep.
and they've got a list of people that are turning 65 and they're meeting
Hmm.
with them one-on-one, and they run successful businesses that they're quite happy with that way.
Right.
So you have a lot of different choices, and you
Mm-hmm.
just have to decide the route that's going to go in the direction that you
Mm-hmm.
feel most comfortable with.
Right. You know, it was funny. I joked a little bit ago about your youth. Do you find that that is a positive or a negative in dealing with senior citizens?
Yeah, really good question, because I can remember the first carrier meeting that we went to. We went up, my brother and I went up to check in, and this has been 12 or 13 years ago now. And the gentleman from the insurance company checking me in, the first thing he said was, "My goodness, you're so young." And I was like, "Well, that's always a nice thing to hear, you know." And we were the youngest people in the room. And I think in the beginning, maybe there was a little bit of hesitation sometimes from people, and we just overcame that with sheer knowledge,
Right.
you know, able to answer the questions.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember having conversations one-on-one with people where someone would say to me, "You sound awfully young," and I would say, "That's maybe true, but let's just try this conversation, and if a question comes up that I can't answer for you, I will find you an agent that is 65 that you can speak with." And so we give them that guarantee that if we can't provide what you need, we'll help you find someone else. And so really, we have not had any big problems with it. On my sales team, we've got folks that are very young. I've got an employee here, she's probably 23 or 24.
Oh, holy
and
cow.
I always tell her, I ask her when I see her in the hallway, "Are you old enough to work here?" Because she's so young.
Yeah. Are you old enough to
A
drink?
little. But we also have, you know, several employees that are on Medicare themselves. So a nice range of people. And I think that the clients, what they care most about is that you have the information and, of course, the licenses and appointments to do the business. So we provide them with our license numbers to make sure that they're able to check on the Department of Insurance website that they can find us. And it really hasn't been too difficult to overcome that little bit of an age gap.
Well, and I'm guessing that for many, they know that it's a benefit that you are so tech savvy again.
We'll be here too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know,
they've got
you
a
can
question
get
in
through
10
all
years.
of that.
Yeah.
Yep. So, you know, you mentioned something at the start when we were talking about when you started your business, and you said, you know, that you bootstrapped it. And I think that's something that so many business people, you know, we're getting ready to start our business, whether it's full-time or a side hustle. And it's like, okay, do I have to have all the money to start with? Do I just try and wing it? You know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I get this question a lot. We're fairly visible in the industry, and so a lot of times younger and newer agents who are coming into the industry will send us questions, and I really try my best to be open-minded and help them and grow their business as well, because I can remember what it was like to be young and struggling to figure it all out. And what I usually tell them is money is faster than time. If you have cash that you can put in, you're going to be able to grow your business more quickly. You're going to be able to, you know, purchase some marketing. You can buy leads. There's going to be things that you can do to grow more quickly. But if you don't have cash to rely on, there's no reason why you can't start your business, because you can use your good old-fashioned elbow grease, and you can go out there in this industry working with baby boomers. You can buy mailers. You can send those out. You can do telemarketing to a certain extent for certain types of products. There's some that you can't. And so if you don't have any cash to get started, you have to just go out there and figure out, where can I put myself in places where I'm going to come across people who'd be interested in this product. And then the second piece of that is, what can I do to be memorable to them? So is there something you can leave behind? Can you hand them a business card that takes them to a website where you have a free PDF that explains the 4 parts of Medicare? There's lots of ways that you could approach that. We had intended to do group health insurance, so I was banging on doors of businesses, and I started with smaller businesses. I thought, you know, if I go and approach a 100-person company, you know, pie in the sky, lots of money, all those people, I could have this really good account. But that company's probably been working with a broker they've been established with for years.
Right,
so
and they're never going to switch.
You're going to have a hard time getting in there. So target the small businesses where they only been open a few years, and maybe they may not even have started their health insurance program yet, and be the one that gets in front of them.
Right.
So you can really go about it either way. I would have loved to have more cash to invest, but we were really good about, when we did invest, I had negotiated with my former employer a part-time job. So as I left that job, instead of just leaping into the unknown, I continued handling a certain project for him that I'd handled for years, and that allowed me to have just enough money to pay my bills, and then also be able to, every time we would sell a policy, instead of taking that money out, we would just leave it in there, and we would invest that into more marketing. So if you have an opportunity to do that, you either start as a side hustle so that you have your day job that's paying the bills for you, or find out if you can figure out a part-time way that you can earn income so that you have some time to devote to your business. And that's going to allow you to approach it from either angle. You're either going to have your salaried money to invest into your side business, or you're going to put in the time on the evenings and the weekends. And I think we're living proof that you can go either route and be very successful at it.
Right. And there are some things, and we've talked about this on other programs, that excuse me, that you need to do, set yourself up as a real business, incorporate,
yes, for sure.
Different states that are better for doing some of that, or you can, incorporate in your own state, all these various things, take the legal steps to make sure that whatever it is you're doing, even if you're just, selling things on, crafts on Etsy, you never know when somebody might go, wait a minute, this had something wrong with it, had lead paint, my kid got sick, all these various things. You need to make sure that you've covered yourself. And obviously with insurance, there are the licenses that you have to get. And, that's a coursework, that we're talking about here.
Yes.
And, some other things, but, it is something that, you need to be doing. Because it was funny, I was doing another program earlier today, and we talked about the fact that if you're not taking yourself seriously as a business, nobody else will take you seriously as a business either. And, I remember I was told some really funny, now granted, I started my business over 20 years ago. And so one of the things that she told me was, I met with several different business people, and I remember one of the things she told me, and you're going to die at this, was to get one of the postage meters so that I had the indentia, as opposed to putting stamps on stuff.
Okay.
Because she said it looked more like it was a real business if I had the postage machine. Now it was cheap. It was like $9 a month to rent it from the post office. Then you clearly had to pay for your postage. But, and did that make a difference? I don't know, but it really was one of those funny things that, when you look at something now, it's got a stamp. It's like a stamp. It's got a stamp on it.
Yeah.
And things like, she said, get business cards. And this was when you can probably still buy them, the little Avery things that you can print on your printer, and then you tear them apart. So then you've got the little fuzzy edges from where you've torn them apart. You can get business cards for under $10. You can get 500 of them from a variety of places.
And they can look very nice.
Yeah. Oh, and my favorites are the people who hand me a business card, and it's from their prior employer, and they've crossed stuff out. No, never do that. No. Again, if you want to be taken seriously as a business, you have to take yourself seriously as that business owner. And really, and I think what happens is people don't understand that there are so many inexpensive things. When I tell people, you can buy business cards for $9.95 or whatever it is, and you get 500 of them, and they're good quality cards. They're dumbfounded. You can rent equipment anymore. You can go to various places like Office Max, Office Depot, all those various places, and have a remote office so that you're there. And so it's just things to think about.
Yeah, it's actually reminds me, we did a virtual office in the very beginning where so it would appear that there's a receptionist up front. They answer your phone and send it back to you. And, it was a great way for us to have an excellent face on the business. And another thing, too, that I always tell younger insurance agents when they're coming into the business is don't be the insurance lady at gmail.com. This is not professional. It's so inexpensive to get a domain name, and if you don't know what you're doing, you can go right online to a place like Upwork or Codable, and you can find a programmer who you can pay on a contract basis. It's not very expensive, who can establish your domain name for you, set up a super simple website, and then connect an email account to that, which then you put into your Outlook or wherever. But having a professional domain name really sets you apart, and it makes it makes you look like a real business person instead of somebody that's working out of their home office or their garage, and you don't have quite the legitimacy and the credibility that you would if you've got a domain name that you've set up for your business. And so those few little things of, in the beginning, establishing yourself in the right way will really go a long way to building your authority with the people that you seek to do business with.
Right. And don't have it tied to something else. It used to be that you had it tied to WordPress, and all these various things. It really is so inexpensive to have your site totally separate. And again, it's the professional thing. And maybe it's only 1 or 2 pages, a little bit about you and then a contact page. Because people are doing their research. And depending on what they're buying from you, if you don't have that presence, then you're not a legitimate business to them. And especially in an area, like you are, where people are really developing long-term relationships. I want to know that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you or at least your company will still be there to help me. If I'm just buying something once, I might not really care. But the more you want to deal with people long-term, the more you have to really show up that you are that long-term business.
Yes. Yep. They want to know the experience level. And like you said, when you set up a website, you have just a couple pages on there. If you don't have a lot of experience that you can list right up front, then do a few things that will give you something to put on there. Speak
volunteer
with your clients and get a quote. Volunteer, do some visits, sell an insurance policy to a friend, and then have them give you a testimonial on your website. You can sign up. One of the things that I did early on was I signed up with the local association for insurance agents. And I immediately asked the president, do you have any openings on the board that you're looking to fill? Because those people are always trying to find members that can help fill board positions. And so right away, I stepped into a board role, even though I was a brand new insurance agent and barely learning what to do. And that positioned me to be able to list on my website that I was a member of the National Association. And it also connected me with all these people that were already successful doing what I wanted to do. So those little things, they can really add up in terms of making your business established and making people have that trust, that really important trust factor.
Well, and think about where you want to meet those people. You mentioned industry groups. There's also business groups, chambers, or it could be a different organization, nonprofit, where you're going to meet people. I didn't have the chance to share before we started. I'm from the University of Colorado. Go Buffs, yay! But years ago, I joined the board of the Denver Buff Club. And that was the booster group in Denver itself, even though, and the university is in Boulder, so it had a different group, suburbs, basically. But, but I took one look at who those people were on that board, and I went, I need to meet those people. Now, the funny thing, I was the only female.
Oh.
And because, it was the good old boy. It was primarily football, and it was so funny. I ended up running it. I was in the president of the Denver Buff Club, and, I was the only female that ever held that position. And they've since restructured, so they don't have the buff clubs like this anymore. But I had this little old man come tottering up to me. Little old men, you get little old men. And they looked at me because I was usually taller. And they say, honey, do you know football? And I'd say, yes. But it was a place for me to meet the people I needed to meet. Sure. And whether that's, a group like that, and alumni groups are great organizations. It's a great place to be able to volunteer for. Obviously, church groups, places like that, or just true nonprofits where your passion might be. It's a great place to be getting experience and be making connections, especially when you're just starting out.
Yeah, you never know where those might lead. You can meet someone that can introduce you to someone else that you want to know, that 6 degrees of separation kind of thing. So you got to put yourself out there in a lot of places, and sometimes you have to overcome some of your own hangups. Right. I've always been an introvert. I'm the kid at the family reunions. You could find me on the picnic blanket reading a book. I was never the social bee. But for this business, it was necessary. Yeah, exactly. You got to put yourself out there and And that's exactly what I did, and it really it boosted my own confidence and my ability to be a successful player in this industry, and it taught me some of the things that I would later need to be able to sit in front of a 600 person audience on a webinar. You know, you overcome some of that fear starting off small,
Right.
and it can take you a long way.
Right. Now, I'm guessing that one of the other things that you may have had to overcome is this is the way it's always been done. You know, whether it's your age, your sex, you know, all of these various things. And technology is probably a very good example of that. You know, we talked about the fact that there are many insurance agents who still go and meet with people.
Yes.
You know, and you know, clearly they're very successful at that. But, you know, there is, and, you know, or we've had bosses. I always love the bosses. You have to do it this way because it's always been done. How do you get past, you know, but this is the way it's always been done philosophy?
Yeah, I think for us in the beginning, it was sort of, okay, this is the way that everyone's doing it. Let's try that and see what we think. And, you know, we immediately could see that it was a very time intensive. Sometimes you might drive to someone's home and they forgot the appointment and they're not there.
Or
you can only produce
hours.
Yeah, you could be there with someone that's a real talker. Or, you know, you just never know. And so you might spend a whole day and only make 1 or 2 sales. Whereas if you're making phone calls here in the office and you can somehow learn how to do this online or via email or by phone, you can help so many more people. And sometimes you have to twist it around in your thinking that way about, it's not that you're trying to make so many more sales, but you're also helping, you know, who can I help today and how can I make that help the most efficient possible way? And so there definitely were, I can think of several people that I still know in the industry today that absolutely thought that this would just never fly. And okay, well, my thinking on it was, okay, well, I'm going to try this. And if he's right, okay, well, then I'll go back and sell appointments across the kitchen table. It's not going to be something that's going to be so expensive or time consuming that if it flops, you have to be willing to fail. And if you try something and it fails, then you learn from it. For example, we have tried all sorts of marketing here. And so we tried direct mail marketing, and I know for sure that all of our clients are always telling us how much mail they get. And, you know, I really didn't think it was going to work because I thought there's so much mail out there. But on the other hand, these big insurance companies must see the payoff somehow if they wouldn't keep sending the mailers if they didn't work. And so we did that, and we had a few leads out of it, and it was nowhere near the kind of return that we get from getting leads on our own website or on the internet. And it was, you know, it was money that I spent to fail and learn that, okay, this really isn't, I didn't think it was going to work, and it didn't. And so now I can spend my time and energy on the things that I think will work. So you got to have a little bit of intuition and be able to trust your own gut feel. But also, if you try something and it was your gut feel and it just didn't work, you've got to be a big enough person to admit that and then say, okay,
even if you dumped money into it.
Yeah, that's right. You know, so give it a reasonable try. And then if that doesn't work, you try something else. And every business owner knows that you're going to try some things that don't work. And sometimes they do cost you some money. And that's okay, because when you hit upon the thing that does work, it's going to be consistent. And eventually you'll find the thing that is your thing. And when that's your thing and it works for you, you just continue to scale that. So, and if other guy wants to go and still run appointments today, drive to Abilene and hold 4 appointments and then spend 2 hours in the car on the way back, more power to him. It's not gonna
they're listening to, you know, Audible books and
and they may love doing business that way, and that's great. And in fact, I have had over the years, occasionally we do run across someone who just absolutely wants to work with someone local. And when we find someone like that, I go out of my way to try to help them. So if I've got a lady in Maryland and she just refuses to do business with us by phone, you know, what I'll normally say is, I'll tell you what, speak with one of my agents, let me give it a try by phone. And if we try this and at the end of the conversation you don't understand, then I will find you a local agent. And 99% of the time, we absolutely sell them by phone, and they're very comfortable. But that 1%, when you run into someone and they just want to work with someone local, I set up Goodwill I go online and I find them a local broker. And that person, they're going to remember that you did that you cared enough to try. And so, you know, just do what you can to be helpful. And not all the time is it going to always result in a sale. But what comes around goes around when you're putting out sort of that good karma like that.
Yeah, I tell people it's a win-win. I've had people before that have said, "You have given away business." Well, for whatever reason, it wasn't a good fit.
Yes.
It doesn't mean there's anything at all wrong with that client. Just wasn't a good fit. Maybe it's a conflict. Maybe I
Yeah.
thought, just not going to work together well with them. Whatever it is. But that when you're right, when you find someone else who can match their needs, you made everybody happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's especially when we're just starting out in business, we don't ever want to turn business away. But, when you have those pain clients, right? We've always had the pain clients that are so much, you see caller ID and you're like, no, or you don't open their emails, whatever it is, you're not doing them a service.
Yeah.
Because you're certainly not giving them 100%.
Yeah.
You're giving them negative. And so by giving them to someone else and getting a good match for them, it's just so much better off.
It is. And you may never hear from that person again, but they're going to think fondly of you that you were nice enough to help them out. We don't do business in New York. And so we have clients all the time that attend our webinars or find us online, and they'll send an email and say, why don't you do business here? And I tell them, hey, don't worry. I've got these two other agents that I know really well that do business in your state. They're going to take great care of you. The agents appreciate it when we refer that business, and the person's happy that we referred them to someone that we know to be.
You didn't just say, sorry, I can't work with you.
Yeah, we could have just said we don't know anybody, but we've gone out of our way to develop relationships with people that we think will do as good a job as we would, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Right. And again, that is, I think, hard for a small business owner because we are thinking money's walking out the door.
Yeah.
Well, it is, but it's allowing us to focus on the people that are the good fit. And it also means that there are times where we're going to fire clients.
Yes.
Or never even, hopefully you never work with them to start with, but things change. And it doesn't matter. Especially in your business, it might have been that, say, you were working well with one spouse, that spouse dies, and then you're working with the other spouse, and it's just not a good fit.
Yeah.
Or, things like that. So things change. And again, if you're able to help them, everybody remembers.
Yes, that's right. And it doesn't really take that much time to do it. It takes you a few minutes putting together. I can make a few phone calls or do a little research online and find somebody good. And that's just goodwill. And I really think it's important.
Right. And one of the things that I always tell people is you have to go with your gut. If there's something in there going, then it's not going to get better. I think I've shared this story before years ago, and this was when I was still in Colorado. Had a gentleman come to us, wanted a business proposal to do website marketing, all sorts of stuff for him. And nice man, but there was something there. Couldn't put my finger on it. And that was what was funny. I could not put my finger on, there was just something that I thought it's not quite right. So I went ahead, and did the hours. That's the problem with sometimes what we do is, we can put hours and hours into a proposal where, depending on what they need, we might even be doing some mock-ups of some various things. Gave it to him. And then he responds, several days later, and he said, didn't really like your proposal. I went, okay, whatever. And it was probably because I had sensed in there that, this, and so I probably hadn't given it my 100%. But then he says, but I really like a proposal I got from somebody else, so I want you to implement it. And of course, every warning bell I had went off.
Okay.
And so, what he does is he sends me their proposal where he'd redacted their name out except one spot. And of course, it was somebody that I knew and somebody that I knew very well. And first of all, I told him, I said, this is really unethical. I said, it is their work, their proposal. No, I'm not going to implement it.
Yeah.
Which got, lots of fun words from him. And then I told them, you need to not work with this guy because here's what he did.
Yeah.
And, and should I have tattled? I didn't, like I said, I knew them and I didn't want them working with him. And I'm hoping that he learned his lesson. It's funny. His business, I don't think it ever really got off the ground because every once in a while, just out of curiosity, you look at those things.
Yeah.
But my first instinct was, nah, this isn't going to work. Yeah. And like I said, there wasn't anything I could pick because he was nice. He was, he was a gentleman. He was one of those, he opened the doors, all these various things, but there was just something there.
Yeah, and you'll learn to listen to that little voice
Yep.
the longer
when it
you're in
goes,
business, so
you're
you
like,
will know. In the beginning, you want to do it all. Like I can remember early on someone saying, "Do you sell disability insurance?" "Yep, I sure do." And then I would go learn that product and try
Yep.
to, just trying to make any sale. And looking back on that, I laugh at it because I would never do something like that now. I would refer it out in a heartbeat. But sometimes you will run across clients that are not a good fit for you. And it's really great when you reach that place in your business that you can be secure enough to say, I don't need that business that much.
I mean, sometimes we do have to take those people.
Yeah, sometimes you do because you need to make the ends meet in the beginning. But there comes a time in your business where you may not have to anymore. And then you've got to come up with a tactful way to, usher them on to the next person. But just remember that it's your time. So you don't have to take on a client that either doesn't appreciate you or might be verbally abusive to you or that demands things that aren't okay. I mean, we do have that occasionally happen here. Someone will say, well, I want you to spreadsheet all of this out. Well, we don't do that. So if you want that, you're going to need to find another agent. And you tell them that as nicely as possible. And you're only going to run into those occasionally, but if you have someone in that little voice in the back of your head is telling you something about not taking this business, or you think that this person might end up being a pain in your rear, or that they may be unethical, which is really the worst case scenario, like the one that you mentioned, you don't want to have any part of that. So it's okay to walk away.
Well, and sometimes it means that you need to fine tune your marketing.
Yeah.
And because it might be, say you determine that, example might be you might determine that your best clients are widows between 63 and 65. There's obviously nothing wrong with anybody who doesn't fit that category.
Yeah.
But that's where you have your sweet spot. So it's where you might have your knowledge. Now, I'm just making this up for anybody who's listening, but, and so you focused your knowledge on it. And it's kind of like when you said, you sold disability, you weren't as knowledgeable about it. So it would be like somebody coming to me and wanting me to do something that I could probably figure out how to do it, but would it be the best use of everybody's time? No, probably not.
Definitely not.
So then in my marketing, I need to make clear, maybe I don't say we don't do this, maybe not, but we need to make it clear, here are the products and services that we offer.
Yes. Yeah. And you can fine tune that and it'll do a lot of the work for you in terms of just weeding those clients out to begin with.
Right. Well, now speaking of marketing, I said a number in your intro that everybody's eyes just went, including mine. You have 170,000 social media followers.
Yes.
That's a heck of a number, especially for a demographic that is a little bit less tech savvy. I mean, they're not really the Facebook people, all of those things. So let's talk about how you've really been successful with that.
Yeah, it's been crazy trying to figure all that out. We first started looking into Facebook and social media around March of 2016. At that time, I was handling all my own marketing here, and I've got a team now, but at that time, it was just me. And the thing that I noticed whenever looking at marketing, I spend a considerable amount of time studying what everyone else does. And I notice all sorts of businesses that we putting post and post and post out every day and not a single like or comment or share. Nobody's engaging in any of that. Right. And so then you can look at it and it's easy to see a pattern where, let's just take an example of your auto insurance agent. You might like them on Facebook and follow them because they're your agent, but does that mean that every day of your life you want to a car auto ad, an ad for your auto insurance? No, of course not. Right. So you have to remember that with social media, people are there to be social. They're there logging on to whatever platform, Instagram, Facebook. They're there for a reason to see what's going on in their friends' lives and scroll through and get a little bit of news. And we're very lucky that we get to advertise on a platform like that because the targeting is so great and you can really narrow in on your niche market. But you want to remember that for every post that you put out that is about your business, you want to be putting out 2 to 3 other posts that are not have anything to do with that. So think about your demographic and what is something that would be funny to them? What is something that would be interesting to them that has nothing to do with the product that you sell? And then put out content that is engaging and fun. And that way they aren't going to be likely to just unfollow you because you put out 17 auto insurance ads a week. That is really the key to it. It's not that difficult. You just have to remember the perspective of the viewer. And I look at myself and I think about the types of things that I look for on social media. And I'm always amazed at how other companies can dial in so quickly to what I'm looking for. So, if you go online, and I'm sure this has happened to you before, but you go online looking for something, and then that same day later on, you're on Facebook and
I know. I'm like, no, Big Brother, no.
Yeah, it is Big Brother. Like, they know what's going on, and it's super ingenious, the fact that they can do that. But look at the types of ads that you're getting in your own social media. Which ones do you appreciate, which ones that you don't? And then think about that from your client's perspective, and just, do the same thing. What type of things are they going to find interesting, and what things aren't going to be so interesting to them? And you don't want to just pound them over and over again with sales, sales, sales. You also have to recognize the platform. So if you're putting out content, say for YouTube, YouTube is a search engine. People are typing in questions and they want to watch a video answer. So that's what the type of content you've got to put out. Answer a question or make a video on a topic that answers a common question or some sort of question that, might have a few different answers, and then put that together. You have to put out the type of content that's working for that particular medium. But the main thing is just not to hit them over and over again with sales ads, because that's not what they're there for. They're there to either learn or buffer their time with enjoyable content from their friends and family.
Right. And you hit on that, because so many times, when people are talking to me about their social media, they say, we don't know what to post. We don't have anything to post. And it's because they are thinking that they have to be posting only about what they do.
Yes.
And never any, general. And I mean, they could even be providing something else. Like for you, I'm assuming you do posts on new Medicare benefits. So they're informational, but then, if you put a cat video in every once in a while, that's okay too.
It's okay. Yeah.
And I think so many people tend to think, oh no, we're in this box. We must keep our posts in this box. We can't be funny. We can't be silly. And I tell them that's can't be further from the truth. And you can also be posting, I tell people, post about your community. Is there a new business that's opening up? Is there an art festival this weekend? All
Absolutely.
various things. And, you'll find that you get enough that you're posting very often. And it's all about top of mind. People are going, oh, okay, well, I've seen this, I've seen that. Wait a minute. I keep seeing all these posts from Danielle. And she does insurance, and our other stuff is really good. So maybe she's pretty good at insurance too. Maybe I better get her.
That's right. You want to just have them engaging with a lot of the content that you put out there, so that in their mind, they think of you as they're going to be okay seeing your occasional ad about Medicare supplements, when most of the time you're posting stuff that they enjoy and laugh at and like and comment and share. So if you get you to establish that goodwill in their mind, then if they don't want to see the Medicare ad, they're going to let it slide by and they won't think about it. But then one of these times you're going to hit them on just the right day that they had a question, or that their friend asked them, how do you sign up for Medicare? And they'll remember you, and they're going to talk about you, or they're going to share your information. And so you just don't want to be that person that's annoying, putting an ad in front of them all the time. That's the biggest mistake that I think most marketers make.
Right. And you look at those who successfully use social media, the businesses that do, and it typically are the ones that have humor.
Yes.
And it really doesn't depend. I mean, like there's a funeral home. Let's just be that
this would be a hard one to do Facebook on. Yes.
And now that gets a little tricky with, what are you going to post there? And so they post, obviously they post about services that they have, but they also post a lot about the community. Here's what's going on. Here are things in the community.
Smart.
And, they do have some funny stuff that they put. Now they have to be very careful. I mean,
yes, I'm sure.
There are, anytime you're telling jokes online, you have to make sure. And, let's be honest, there's still somebody that's probably going to go, really? That's good. Okay. But it's okay to do things like that and do, other things, as we are doing this, as we're taping this. Tonight is the last of Final Four. So maybe you build that into something. Maybe you're
sure.
Michigan State. Is Michigan State who's in? Michigan State and Virginia, right?
Virginia, and is it Tech?
Oh, it is. It's
Texas Tech.
Silly me. You should know.
Yeah.
That's even though you didn't go to Texas Tech.
I've got an employee that's a graduate, and I thought I saw her post something about it this morning.
Yeah. I mean, you can be posting things like that. And again, it's just to kind of keep you in the news feeds.
Sure.
There's so much that's there.
Yeah. And you can comment on that and say not a word about your business. Just put out something fun.
Right.
And that also on the social media, short videos about just your own life really do well.
Right.
I could walk out on the floor with my iPhone and say, this is how we do customer service here in our business. Or, you tape it for a minute and say, just thought I want to show you the back end. Little videos like that, where they're actually showing a part of your workday or part of your personality, they go over really well when you keep them short.
Right.
People are like, hey, that's a real person. Wow. Every time she comes on, she's not just talking about
I've
Medicare.
talked to her, right?
Yeah. And then they tend to think of you as a friend. They end up seeing, welcoming your face. So there's going to be that time where you offer the right information at the right time, and then they're going to bite. And so you've got to just be putting out content before that doesn't annoy them to the ends of the earth.
Well, and the content that you use, you're selling, right? Every one of us is selling, whether we like to be selling or not. And people are asking us questions about it. If one person has a question about it, other people have
someone
a question
else
about
does.
It.
They sure do.
And so sit down and do, a question of the week, not a question of the day, maybe a question of the day, depending, and again, it depends on your medium. If you're doing a 30-second video every day, that's okay. You could probably do something like that and be very industry specific. But, a long blog post, once a month, maybe. Who knows?
Yes, definitely. And you put out too much content, that doesn't go over very well either.
Right. Well, good golly, Danielle, we are already almost at the top of the hour, and this has been so much fun. And we didn't even really talk too much about Boomer Benefits. So tell us a little bit more about exactly what it is that you guys do.
Sure. So we are a licensed insurance agency that helps people select Medicare supplement or drug coverage to go alongside their Medicare to fill in the gaps. So the people that we work with are mostly baby boomers who are getting ready to enter Medicare and are having to learn all the ropes of everything Medicare and do a lot of education on that. You can find us online at boomerbenefits.com, and on just about any social media. If you type in Boomer Benefits, we'll have a channel or an account of some kind, and so you can follow us wherever you are.
Great. Well, how would they connect with you personally if they wanted to get in touch?
Sure. I have also a personal website that is daniellekroberts.com. So that's a great way to reach out to me. I blog there on a lot of things like personal finance and retirement, and you can message me there. Also, anyone that comes to our Facebook page, you can message, and we answer questions about Medicare all day long on there. And a lot of times that's me. So I've got that open every day, and as questions pop in, myself and my team are answering them. So if you want to send something personal, that's another great way to reach me.
Great. I love it. Well, do you have any final words that you would like to share with our viewers and our listeners?
I remember what it's like to be starting a business or, running a business in the early days. And I think that it's easy sometimes to get drugged down in all of those details and a little bit overwhelmed when it comes to marketing and building a business. And you just want to always keep the end goal in mind, which is that you want to provide a product or a service that makes life easier for someone else. And if you do that and you do it well, your business is going to grow no matter if you've got 5 hours to put behind it or you've got 40 hours to put behind it. So never be afraid to start something, even if it's something you're going to start part-time, because you just never know when it might turn into a great big business that you do in 47 states.
I love it. I love it. Well, with that, we are going to end. I am Deb Creer. I've been having a delightful time talking with Danielle Roberts. And at some point, not now, years, now I have a friend in the insurance business.
You do.
So I'm sure we'll be in touch, but it'll be a long time from now. So I am Deb Creer talking with Danielle Roberts. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer. Join us next time for more real-life stories and techniques to power up your business.
You've been listening to C-Suite Radio. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.